the heart of India's robust and resilient economic stability lie several growth factors. One of them is our physical infrastructure: roads, highways, railways, airports, the connectivity which has made India a preferred destination for manufacturing, GCCs, global captive centers, hotels, offices, and so much more. So that is one plank, the physical infrastructure. And the second one is our digital infrastructure, whether it's 5G, the cheapest data in the world, citizen-centric services like UPI, Aadhaar. These are all building blocks which can transform our nation into a digitally empowered and knowledge economy. But the magic is when these two pillars come together, physical and infra. We're talking about the phygital world and how it will help India achieve its goal of being a Viksit Bharat. You know, I've got the perfect panel to talk about phygital India and the promise that it holds. So let me once again introduce Ari Sarkar. He's been with Mastercard for over a decade. He's held many leadership roles across geographies. He's currently the president of Asia Pacific. He's also a member of the Global Management Committee. He's passionate about driving financial inclusion and inclusive growth across emerging markets. We've also got Jitu Virwani, a visionary, whose approach has led to the creation of India's first listed REIT, Embassy REIT. He spent more than 30 years in real estate. He's been instrumental in transforming Embassy into a leading name in the Indian market. Not just that, guys, he's also a founder of an international school in Bangalore, and he's got a passion for equestrian sports. And now moving on to Brookfield. Under Ankur Gupta's leadership, the AUM of Brookfield in India is about $29 billion. But that's spread across infrastructure, real estate, renewable power, transition, PE. The real estate portfolio, which Ankur looks at, is now about $11 billion. And Ankur, I hear you're great in Hindi, not just English, but you can quote dohas. It's on your fingertips. So I've got this perfect panel to talk about the promise of phygital. So Ari, let me start with you. Let's start this discussion going. So CNBC-TV18 is celebrating 25 years of leadership. Now Mastercard has been in India for close to about 40 years. I believe the first, the Mastercard which was ever issued was in 1988. So tell us about Mastercard's India journey. What is the change that you've seen? Are you seeing a growth impetus, and how has Mastercard participated in this growth story?
Thank you, Rima, and firstly, congratulations to CNBC's entire team. That 25 years is an impressive milestone. You're right, we have been here for about 40 years. So if you really look at the Mastercard story, it is a massive India consumerism story. At the heart of it, I'll just share one data point, which will tell you how far the consumerism story in India has come. Little over a decade, there were just about 15 to 16, somewhere around that, unique credit card holders in this country. Today, you're looking at about 55 million in terms of unique card holders. The spends have almost gone up about 10 times from where it used to be. It's about $300 billion plus. So it's just giving you a sense that the acceleration has just about started to get going. We all know UPI and the $3 trillion plus, so I'm not going to talk about that, but it's been a huge story of formalization of the Indian economy, the rise of consumerism, and therefore you're seeing that get impacted at scale. Now, what's the promise for the future? If I can just spend 30 seconds. This is an important metric. China today has about 400 million unique credit card holders, and China spends more than $6 trillion on credit cards. They spend another 6 to 7 trillion on debit cards, and then obviously there's WeChat Pay, Alipay. Now, India is at the cusp of an enormous growth story, and therefore that is the exciting journey that we really want to be here for.
So the goal is to get to where China is. 55 million credit card users in India, and China is at 400 million credit card users. Okay. Jitu, hi. Your name is synonymous with real estate. Every time a large global corporate wants to invest in India, or they're drawing up their plans at the boardroom level about where to invest, what should the seat count be, where do you want to invest, the go-to company is either Embassy or Brookfield. So you've got this unique perspective of, having a front row seat at these boardroom conversations. So tell us, what are these boardroom conversations like? What are they thinking about?
So I think some of the growth has been directed since I think 2000 in a large scale. But I think the story started in 1984 when few companies came into India. But I think the maximum reason why people are here is what we figure is that people here speak English and think English, and to get that quantity of people and the quality of talent in India is actually been the biggest success of this industry.
But have you seen a growth impetus in the last 5 years, Jitu?
I think every 5 years the growth is much far ahead, than what we estimate. And I think also it's some of the companies who take space from us, they themselves are not able to estimate the growth they have and the potential they have of growing in India. And we continue. So a lot of times jokingly, I say we make these box glass buildings and rent them out. And I'd like to thank the gentleman sitting in the front row, Mr. Parekh, for actually believing in us and making Embassy a successful story.
Fantastic. Ankur, you want to come in and share some insight about when large companies want to come to India, what are they thinking about, and how has that changed over the last decade?
I mean, Brookfield started investing in India 10 years ago. And we looked at India for the last decade and a half as a destination which is long-term. So when companies are making a decision to come to India, it's not for the next year, it's not to save costs. No, India is part of the global economic ecosystem and an integral part of it. At the current economic size of the country and the talent pool that's available to us here, I don't think India is a check in the box. I think India is right on top of where companies need to be, both in terms of where their workforce resides, but also where their businesses have to be created. Mastercard employs probably more people in India than their business in India, but their business in India is not small. Their business in India itself is quite large, and I can say that for a lot of us in this room, where we are part of the global ecosystem now. We're not a country in isolation anymore. At $3.5 trillion of economy, which is doubling every 5 years, like India itself is a private equity model, where we are doubling every 5 years. So lots and lots of opportunities in that spectrum are emerging for a lot of companies, and this is very exciting time for all of us to be here.
I want to thank Ankur for a spectacular property that he's built in Pune, and I want to say the real estate industry in general, Rima, the quality that India is producing is creating another impetus for companies to relocate, and it's not, as I agree, it's not just about resources, but it's about talent, skills, and the ability to get what we call follow the sun model, where US companies need delivery models that actually cuts across the globe.
Yeah, that's so true, because some of our parks were, and there are quite a few companies who are doing it. DLF is doing it, Brookfield, us, Prestige, and a few others. But what is inside the park is a complete different environment. And of course, we can't control the outside, so there's a little bit of lacking when people step out of the parks. So that's why, we've tried and made integrated parks with even hotels, so that people just work within the park and then they'll leave back home. But yeah, the quality is amazing. There was a time when we traveled to the US and showed some of our videos, and people would think it's animated, And only when they come to India and they walk in the parks and they see in reality the scale of it, they realize that this is actual real buildings. But it took a long time, but now I think time has arrived where people believe that they can get that quality world-class buildings in India, which is a good thing.
You said time has arrived. I think there's this quote by Victor Hugo: "No power on earth can stop an idea whose time has come." And I think it's India's time. It's the idea of India as an emerging economic power, as a superpower, and that's the idea, and nothing perhaps can stop it now. Ari, let's get to the topic now on Phygital, right? Phygital is not just about physical infrastructure, digital infrastructure coexisting side by side. It's about the convergence, the interplay of two. And what is the magic that can unfold when that happens, and how does it happen?
Rima, I think it's a great question. A lot of times when we think of digital and physical, let me be very upfront. There is no digital infrastructure without physical. And what do I mean by that? We take Aadhaar for granted. We take telco, 4G, 5G connectivity for granted. But just think about the billions and billions of dollars of hard infrastructure that has had to go in to create telecom connectivity, to put broadband connectivity, Aadhaar. Look at the number of tens of thousands of service centers that have been opened, right? Those are foundational elements. Now with the, what I call the physical infrastructure, everything that you talked about in your opening comments, is I think digital comes as an overlay on physical, where it drives the next level of economic efficiency, it drives the next level of consumer engagement, and therefore leads to greater innovation in business models. So I think to me, that's the exciting part. You could not have had a Reliance Jio scale to 450 million users in the time that they did if you did not have electronic KYC and Aadhaar-enabled onboarding process. You really could not have had the Swiggies and the Zomatos and all the previous panel, the types of business models that have come about, if you did not have the physical infrastructure that is being put in. So I'm very bullish that India's investments on the physical infrastructure side is going to lead to the next wave of innovation in the country, where digital will be the natural enabler for economic growth and prosperity.
I'll just come in here just to contextualize things. Real assets, they house the economy. It's a bedrock on which economic activity happens and progresses. Think about digital products can translate at the speed of light. In 1 second, they can turn around the earth seven times. It took us an hour to go from anywhere in Bombay to any other place. Now it takes 10 minutes. You take the sea link and the coastal road. So every physical infrastructure improvement that comes around has a multiplier effect on the economy, and vice versa. So the role of physical and digital infrastructure, I'll just characterize a little bit here. The very first REITs that came in the world, in the US, were railroad REITs. They were warehouses. They weren't just office buildings. So the evolution of REITs started with that, because that was the need of the hour in the 60s. Then it became student accommodation, it became senior living, it became offices, residential, and so many other things that are called REITs right now. So even when we talk about physical infrastructure, it evolves with the need. Today's day is digital, and that's why you see things like data centers, you see telecom towers, and you see modern office buildings that can sustain the economic growth in a very omni-channel manner. So I think, again, just to contextualize scale, US commercial real estate is $20 trillion. It's almost the size of their GDP. In India, that number is $500 billion. So the scope at which the physical infrastructure needs to cope up with the economic growth is a huge opportunity.
I think it's just an acceleration of growth. I mean, digital, you needed physical infrastructure, and digital takes them way ahead. I mean, you gave us these bands to enter, right? I mean, it just makes things better, synchronize, signalize, make the traffic move ahead. So rightfully, physical infrastructure is a must, but the digital age is taking everything far ahead. That's it.